we've done, at least by agreement, is they spend the midweek with the one parent, and then on the weekends, both children are together with one parent one weekend, and both are together with another parent on the off weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed to work in those situations for the cases I've had. I don't know whether you've ever had to make that call or not.
Haven't really had to make the call in the cases, fortunately, that I've had. The vast majority of them, as a result of negotiations that have taken place between the attorneys with the parents involved, they ultimately have more often than not come to a realization on their own that that's what's best for that particular family. And of course, what works for that family might not work for the next family.
Now, one of the factors is the history of parenting responsibility, the time spent with a child prior to separation, and in my mind, that's a pretty big factor. I don't know how you view it, but I routinely tell clients that come into my office and we discuss custody. They say, you know what, I'm the father, and I'm the one that's been out working, and my wife has been the one at home raising the children because that's the dynamics, that's the way our family was going at it. And now that we're separating, am I disqualified from getting equal time with the children afterwards? Or, on the other hand, the mother who's been at home with the children, it's not always the mother, but in most cases, the mother's been at home, and then the father comes along at separation time and says, I want the children half the time. I want to now be the one that's going to read to them every night, do their homework with them every night, or at least half the time. That factor is a big one. I typically tell clients, I could be wrong, could be right, that the judges, and this is, maybe you can tell everybody if I'm wrong, but the judges look at that factor to see what the routine of the children has been, and try not to disturb that too much. What's your thoughts on that?
It is a factor.
Am I simplifying that too much?
No, I don't think you're simplifying it at all. I think that is a factor. I think it's natural to be concerned as to what the pattern has been of each of the parents with the child or the children, to figure out who has been more, quote, hands-on with the children in terms of clothing, shopping, meal preparation, chores around the house, homework, extracurricular activities, and all that sort of thing. Has one parent been an absentee parent because he or she has been out working 60 or 80 hours a week, or maybe handling a full-time job with maybe a second job on the side to be able to pay the bills? Those are some of the harsh realities of life and financial survival, but it's part of the experience of the children, and you're right. We'd rather not disturb that pattern if it can be maintained. Sometimes, of course, it has to be modified or altered in some degree because the parties are now divorced and ultimately going to be living separate and apart.
No, I think it has to be said that going into a custody case in the courts, each parent has an equal right to seek custody.
Correct.
Right?
That's true.
It's gender neutral.
That's also correct.
We have to say that.
The old days I guess the old days might have gone all the way through the 1970s, when in the view and mindset of family court judges in the past, there was an unstated, unwritten preference that the mother of the children would have or wind up with custody of the child or the children involved. That's certainly no longer the case.
Well, and also because there are more fathers who are more hands-on than fathers historically have been.
True.
Right? Yeah. And there are more mothers who are out working in the workforce, and which results in the fathers having more responsibilities with the children.
Right.
And so, at least from my own perspective, I see more and more shared type parenting arrangements, more than just an alternating weekend.
Right.
That's been my experience. Now tell me
right.
what you see coming through your court.
It's true, and that's a factor, I think, of the tremendous social upheaval and transition that's taken place since the early 1970s in terms of course, among other things, more and more women having entered the workforce over the last 30, 35 years, women having problems and stresses just like their male counterparts in many ways, and we see a lot of problems that historically or traditionally were allocated to the father or the male in the situation, in the divorce situation, such as alcoholism, drug abuse, other substance abuse, prescription abuse, things like that. Now it's kind of cross-gender. It's affecting both sides of the case, male and female, mom and dad, and so there's now kind of been a leavening or equalization or spreading out, if you will, of the problems.
Now, I tell clients all the time that the judges bend over backwards to assure that the children have the benefit of both parents at the end of the divorce or the end of the dispute on custody, and that's because children really do have the right to have both parents in their lives and to help raise them. And having said that, let's talk about the different types of parenting arrangements that you see in the what's now 2009, going into 2010. Do you see more of the traditional? Do you see more of the shared? And what type of arrangements do you see coming through the courts now? Either settled cases or the ones that you actually try?
I think the arrangements are all over the map. You know, I don't know what the exact statistics are. I would say roughly about a third of cases that I see approximately are in the so-called traditional model with the non-custodial parent. More often than not, that's the father, having parenting time on alternating weekends and maybe one or two midweek dinners or one or two midweek overnights, depending upon what time of the year it is, summertime, school time, etc. Maybe another third roughly are some type of shared residential parenting time where the parties may have an arrangement, which is one of the cases that I have